So, my talk this morning is entitled Inhabiting Our Lives. And it's really kind of an overarching term for this practice. And I hope to be able to make the case for that this morning. And I want to talk about fully inhabiting our lives using the tools of what we call practical Dharma. And this notion of inhabiting our lives really emerges naturally when we are fully present for whatever's arising. And when being fully present for whatever's coming up, especially when it grabs our attention or sort of wants us, pulls on our, tugs on us for attention, that's when we want to have it be a way of being. We want to notice, oh, something's coming up. Let me see what it is and what I need to do to attend to it. And so this whole idea of inhabiting our lives, it's not about changing who we are. It's about changing how we are. So who we are is who we are, but how we are is a different ballgame because we become aware of the textures of life, of the ever-changing conditions of life. We don't just breeze through it. There is a rich tapestry that is our lives. We just have to pay attention to it and discover it. But normally, if we're on autopilot and just going through our normal conditioned way of being, we're blind to it. We don't see it. We don't appreciate the rich tapestry that is our lives. So I want to sort of use a metaphor I want to use a metaphor, not sort of, to address this. And we're going to talk about just a beautiful house, but in one in which we are only using one room. And shifting that so that our practice helps us inhabit the whole house of our being. So we shift from autopilot and walking around in a trance. Tara Brach, those of you that know her teachings, one of her central tenets is that we live in a trance. We live in this sort of non-mindful autopilot way. And so we want to shift from that to being more aware and more present. We know that because of the law of impermanence, everything changes, nothing is fixed. And we also know that when we cling to how things should be, meaning they should be permanent, they should be fixed, we're going to suffer. But just like a flowing river, I'm not the same me today that I was yesterday or even an hour ago or will be 2 hours from now. Each moment is new. Each moment presents new challenges, new insights, new awarenesses, new experiences. And with attention and awareness, two of the five factors of mindfulness that we talked about on Saturday, we can really begin to delight in the constant change, even if we used to think it was solid, that it was sort of fixed. Um, and as you know, being present requires that we bring our attention onto our experience. And again, we can't do this all the time, but when something's really pulling on us or vying for our attention, we want to bring our attention to it. We set an intention to do that so that when something's really calling out to us, we check in with our breath, we check in with our body, we pay attention to what our thoughts are. We become more connected to the totality of our experience. And in that moment, we unhook from reliving the past and wallowing in our regrets. We give up trying to anticipate the future, thinking we can control it, because awareness, when we bring attention to the moment and then bringing that second component, awareness, to it, it brings us firmly into the present moment. And sometimes that's a little scary, but it's also where the freedom is. It's also where we experience the freedom. We are not defined by our past mistakes. This is where we let go of the regrets. We forgive ourselves if we're still hanging on to some guilt or remorse about them. And we understand that we're always evolving and changing, and that potential for change is always there. And the key to open this house, open the doors to our house, our metaphorical house, is our mindfulness that I spoke of on Saturday. And in this house, as we go through the different rooms, we welcome, as we see new experiences in the rooms, whatever arises without judgment. We use our breath, which is always with us, to anchor us in the now. We notice the inhale, We notice the exhale. Now, obviously, we can't do this constantly. It's impossible. But we can check in on ourselves regularly. We can just do a momentary check, what some teachers have called moments of mindfulness during the day. Have a reminder. So we just say, what's, as Pat Coffey says, what's the internal weather report right now? What's going on inside? And, am I at ease? Is something nagging at me? What's coming up for me? What's that thought, sensation, emotion, and so forth? We open our sense doors. This is, we talked on Saturday, we sort of got into a discussion of non-conceptual thinking. And I wanted to be clear that I wasn't then talking about we don't think. Of course we think. We have to plan, we have to problem solve, we have to get through our day. But there are times when we want to, instead of, someone used a really good metaphor the other day. When we're in nature, instead of thinking about, well, is this tree a poplar or an oak? We just want to take in the tree, the beauty of the tree, the shape of the tree, the leaves of the tree, the breeze in the tree. That's what we do in terms of opening our sense doors. And it does get us out of that thinking, judging, past, future, all that kind of monkey mind stuff that so often is just buzzing in our heads. So in those instances, we shift gears. We're not just passively seeing something, we're actively seeing it. This is inhabiting our lives. And when we do that, and this is when we talk about, forest bathing and being in nature, which is such a wonderful place to do this, colors become more vibrant, sounds become more distinct. We learn to observe our experience rather than think the experience is me. We don't become identified with that idea of a fixed self. We observe what's coming up. It's why when we're sitting in meditation, I'll often give the instruction, just watch your thoughts as they arise. Just observe the feelings or the sensations as they arise. Don't get entangled with them. Don't get immersed in the story. So we approach our thoughts, emotions, sensations, or whatever arising like the clouds in the sky metaphor, just passing through. Observe them without judgment. We watch our stories. We experience our stories as observers. We don't think that the stories are us. We don't identify with them. Oh, I am my stories. That must be who I am. Okay. We recognize all the textures of life by being present with it in the moment. And sometimes we're actually delighted by the unexpected when we see it through fresh eyes, when we sort of get out of that problem solving, judging, planning, revisiting the past, anticipating the future mind. We really can be surprised by what we see because spiritual practice is not separate from life. It is our life. This is our life. It becomes the lens through which we see and interact with the world. So we set an intention to be, not to be something. We're going to just be with whatever is, not be something. We set an intention to be present even for the unpleasant sensations because we know they're impermanent and they will pass. We don't grasp at the pleasure, try to cling to it and hold tightly to it because we don't want it to go away, nor do we push away and reject the unpleasant because we can't stand it, we don't want it. We just know that these things will arise and pass away. And what happens with that, and this is so critical to this path, is we learn not to fear the lack of control because we see how things are constantly changing. We see that it's not possible to have control. We stop trying to control. We see that believing that we can control is an illusion that we just grasp onto as if it was a security blanket. And when we do that, we experience life anew, tasting it fully as if for the first time. This is why the Zen people talk about beginner's mind and fresh eyes. We approach everything with an openness. Oh gosh, every day is new. Every day is fresh. What is today going to bring? Not just putting the blinders on, putting my head down, and pushing ahead on autopilot. And that's how we're conditioned. But we want to learn to inhabit our lives as an ongoing journey, not the destination. It's always the journey. It's in the everyday moments. It's when we're washing the dishes, listening to a friend, feeling the sun in our face, that life truly unfolds. Thich Nhat Hanh always said, when you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Don't be planning the next adventure or regretting what you just said to your friend or whatever. So with all that said, my wish for all of us is that we find peace and purpose in the fullness of this present moment by living in all the rooms of these houses that we call our lives, inhabiting our lives fully. So